Praise Him. I am just coming on. I want to apologize to those who have been lacking lacking an update on my situation. And I want to thank those who have been praying for me in my situation at the same time. I just want to give an update. This is an update for those who want an update on issues at Broward Courthouse, the racial discrimination, and so forth, as far as with my grandmother. And if nothing else, please pray. If nothing else, just pray. If nothing else, just lift your hands and pray or something. You don't even have to pray. Just think it in your heart about the help that I need. Whether you agree or disagree with what I'm saying, I would still need help. Praise Him. And if it makes sense of what I'm saying, please give sense. Give 2 cents if it makes sense. If it makes sense, give 2 cents, please. You can Cash App it to TBCS360, TBCS360. And pardon me as I look down, but it's important that I do so I can stay on track and keep going. But you can also go to the website www.soscongresswomansheilacm.com. That is www.soscongresswomansheilacm.com. All right. I am more than convinced that there are some federal government people, powerful people in government, who wants to keep the case, the discrimination case, pretty much sealed, covered up, and closed. So within this video, one, I'll be talking about the murder. I'll be talking about the murder of my grandmother at Broward Health. That's the first thing I'll do. The second thing I'll do is talk about an unlawful case settlement by Marshall Dennehey and Brinkley Morgan. That's what I'm going to do for the second one. The third, I'm going to talk about the Broward courts and how they've been preventing me from having one hearing. I just need one hearing. So because of this, I have to go to the federal courts now. I need your help to fight in federal courts. And because it's a municipality, it's even harder financially to deal with it. Even other attorneys to even take on the case. So dealing with the first thing, I said it as far as my grandmother being murdered at Broward Health. She was murdered at Broward Health after reporting. It was pretty much solid evidence. I reported this to federal employees and investigators, put it that way, intake specialists. I reported it to them. I reported it to from the state level all the way up to the federal level, and no one has done a thing showing more than enough evidence or giving more than enough evidence to inquire about it. Just to even make an inquiry, there's enough evidence, but they won't do it. I recently went to retrieve her death certificate, the long version of the death certificate, and there is a direct admission of their actions. So for one of the things is she was pretty much, the complaint was she was unplugged from the respirator, and I believed that they knew what they were doing, that they intentionally pulled her off the respirator for her to die. Again, they intentionally pulled her off the respirator so she could die. And if you hang in long enough, you'll see it. The first thing is the long death certificate here. And The cause of death that they have, I'm sure you can't see it, but it's respiratory failure. That's the cause of death. And B, it says aspiration pneumonia. C, it says dementia. So that's the third one, dementia. It's only two. It's the respiratory failure, and it's the aspiration pneumonia. That's the only thing it is. And from there's a witness, even my cousin, who was in the room with this nurse, who was stating about the her breathing on her own, and stating that the machine is saying that she's now breathing on her own and it's time for her to come off. This, again, we were in, at the time, the intensive care unit at Broward Health. At Broward Health, they have the intensive care unit. There's a 1:1 nurse to patient ratio. 1:1. So a nurse is always there, always present in the room. Okay. But what makes it worse is the aspiration pneumonia that it says, besides the respiratory, the aspiration pneumonia was caused due to her entering into the trauma facility via paramedics. One of the trauma staff gave her a Tylenol pill and water to swallow after they were informed and they were informed before they did it that she had a fall, hit her head and her neck to the point that it caused partial paralysis. My grandmother was 96. In any nursing home, without it being a trauma, no nurse, and I've known this for years, no nurse will give any liquids to an elderly without first thickening it, just to make sure that they can even drink or swallow. So a trauma person in Broward Health gave her a Tylenol tablet and water to swallow in her partial paralysis, in her unresponsiveness, as is noted it's noted that she was unresponsive, that she was a little responsive. Everything was noted that she was pretty much out of it a little bit, along with the paralysis. So during the approximately 12 hours before her last breath, she suffered, from my understanding from the doctor directly, that she suffered a massive heart attack within these 12 hours. So they pulled her off the respirator, probably, let's say 7 o'clock, and they said that she could breathe on her own. The question was, what if she can't? Well, we'll just put her back on. Everything will be fine, and then just for her to recoup. She was on the respirator because of the aspiration that the staff gave, because the staff gave her the Tylenol pill. So at the end of the day, because Broward they refused to do a mandatory autopsy. I had to get an autopsy. I requested, an independent autopsy to be done. And there were three different, in the autopsy report, this long report, there are three different sections. It talks about her, three different sections of her lungs had collapsed already. 3 sections of her lungs had collapsed, and there was at least 6 ounces of frothy liquid in her pathway. So yet, as she was struggling to breathe, she was battling with 3 collapsed sections of her lungs. She was battling with frothy liquid, 6 ounces of frothy liquid in her breathing pathway, as she struggles to breathe now. After her funeral, I retrieved her medical records after her funeral, and trust me, these are medical records just for that one event. These are her medical records that I retrieved after her funeral. And upon retrieving those medical records, Broward Health, instead of reading the treatment plan, because I wanted to read what they noted. It was important because I already felt something was going on. It was bad. And going back to get records, they don't expect that most of the time. So when we went back to records, I'm expecting to see, what they're talking about as far as the treatment plan that we had for her. And, as far as after her injuries, her getting ready to transfer a level outside of the intensive care unit because she made a drastic miracle turnaround. So from that on, instead of seeing her treatment plan and the notes that we talked about for about an hour, it said, it read that they called us by her bedside after extubation and that we were able to visit her. We also thanked them for giving us one more time to spend with her. Well, it says more time to spend with her, but it's pretty much saying that we went by her bedside as we knew that she was dying, which that wasn't the case. It was totally different. And with one-on-one nursing, the question is, how long should it take for a nurse to notice that somebody's dying in front of you? How long does it take a nurse one-on-one with a patient to notice that the person can't breathe alone besides having monitors that's saying everything that needs to say? It's nowhere in the world that she had a quick death. She had a massive heart attack before she died because she was struggling to breathe that much per the pathologist. She was struggling to breathe, her lungs collapsed. She was struggling to breathe, whatever the frothy liquid that was going over, and she was still fighting. And she had a massive heart attack before she died. No one should die like that. Not like that. So the other thing is making sure that I knew for sure that the hospital knew that there was no way in the world that she could come off the respirator. So within the records that you get from the hospital, here's the first half. That first half, this is from Broward Health. The first half is talking about how we were called by her bedside for the extubation. And the second part here was on the day that she was taken off the respirator. And it was saying that she had extensive fluid in her chest and in her cavities. So basically those 6 ounces of frothy liquid, they saw that. And they reported it extensive with more verbs to say how bad her lungs were and that she could not breathe pretty much. That's how they described it. They described it as if you need help. You need to stay on the respirator. They knew before they pulled her off the respirator that she was not going to survive. They knew it. But yet they told us different. Again, them telling us different, it is verbatim documentation when we spoke with the nurse, literally, and talking about the treatment plan and everything, and talking about the happen chance if her breathing decreased or it worsened that she could not breathe, putting her back on. So on to my next one. I just ask you to give so I can go to federal court. If it makes sense, give 2 cents so I can fight this in federal court. So the second thing I want to talk about I want to speak about the Marshall Dennehey, who reportedly they represent the city of Fort Lauderdale, colluded with Brinkley Morgan to unlawfully settle the case without my knowledge or approval. This is involving racial discrimination. They unlawfully partnered, colluded to settle the case unknowingly without my knowledge or permission. On February 2020, I made an inquiry with Congressman Hastings. You have to forgive me as I do this because I'm showing you some things at the same time. But on February 2020, I made an inquiry with Congressman Hastings. There was a congressional inquiry done on my behalf to HUD to explain what is going on with my racial discrimination case. And when we got it back, they pretty much, HUD pretty much told Congressman Hastings that I agreed to a withdrawal with resolution, which is, it means a private settlement, that a withdrawal with resolution was made, but that I backed out from it. Furthermore, they ensured Congressman Hastings that a fair representation, that there was fair representation for me by stating in the summary of the findings, it stated mail was the findings was mailed to Terry Brewer, comma, his representative, comma, Thomas R. Tatum of Brinkley Morgan, excuse me. So I am baffled about me having a representative, and I need one. And then on top of that, me having a representative that costs at least $1,000 an hour. I don't have it. During this time, the only connection that I had with him, with Thomas Tatum, because I remembered it. I remember the name. The only connection I had with Thomas Tatum was seeing his name in the building directory as I went to visit the City of Fort Lauderdale's attorney to talk with them. So there's no confusion. This is the card that I received back from, you can't see it, I'm looking at the screen now, but yeah, that's the card that I got back before I left from the office manager of Marshall Dennehey. So I went to see them, but it so happens that the people that they colluded with was just a floor above them. It was just a floor above them in the same building. There's no way in the world that happens and there's no colluding or partnering, especially when I don't know who those people are. And more than likely, because they're a floor above, they've already done cases together of networked or any of that stuff. I just want to, again, the Thomas Tatum. So after me seeing that and seeing Thomas Tatum, I began to contact him, and me trying to contact Thomas Tatum at least 2 times, 2 different ways before I went to go visit him at his new location, at Brinkley Morgan's new location. So that's the card that I received. And this was recently, this was within the last, this had to be in between August to December of 2022, to make it for sure, between August to December of 2022. This happened 2020 of me trying to reach him, and I'm visiting him now in 2022. This will be the first time that I ever see who the man is. So when I went to the representative at the desk and I asked for him, she said, okay, let me go. He's right there in the conference room, and the conference room is all glass. You could see it, and he's talking with this. There's a young lady that he's talking with, and she goes in, she speaks to him, and then he waves me in pretty much. She says, hey, oh, come on in. And so he agreed to talk to me as long as I was not a process server. As long as I wasn't a process server, he agreed to talk to me. And so the man was so kind to, I didn't expect it. He was very warming and everything, very open to how can I help? But however, when I started saying how he can help, because I'm confused when I only said my name and HUD. Something about my name in the HUD case that and then he immediately stopped me from talking and said that he could not talk to me. If you were an attorney and you did not represent anybody, but HUD is saying, wait a minute, let me see that. I'm going to take the paper. Let me see this. HUD is saying what? That's not, oh no, that's Thomas B. Tatum, not Thomas R. Tatum. Whatever it is, I'm going to get it right. I'm not just going to be confused and say, no, I can't talk to you. But he immediately, after hearing my name and HUD, he said he could not talk to me. And then I said, sir, I'm sorry. Did you understand? Yeah. I can't talk to you. You have to give the papers to her. But you just said you can talk to me if I wasn't a process server. What happened to the warmness? What happened? Oh, I don't know what it says. I can't read. Okay, I'll read it for you. It's fine. It says that Terry Brewer and, quote, his representative, basically Thomas R. Tatum, was given the findings packet, the summary packet for the HUD investigation of racial discrimination. Waiting to hear his response. Did you or did you not represent me? I didn't ask the question. I just waited to hear. And then he says, it wasn't me. I didn't represent you. Here's the problem. In the beginning, when he heard me saying that they said HUD, my name and HUD and his name, I don't even think I even said his name then in the beginning. But allowing me to say his name, he would have said quickly, oh, I didn't. That wasn't me. Just give the papers to her. That had nothing to do with me. That you probably have the wrong Thomas Tatum. But it didn't happen that way. It was very different. It was like I was kryptonite immediately. Like I exposed kryptonite. Get it away from me. Like he could not be close to it at all whatsoever. And he wanted to be away from it. And the only thing was mentioned when he did it was my name and regarding a HUD discrimination case. That is it. I introduced myself, showed the letter and said regarding a HUD discrimination case, and he immediately went off, and that was it. So the last thing I want to talk about was Broward County Courthouse. They continued to deny me 7 times. They denied me 7 times in the domestic violence situation that you guys probably heard about, probably didn't hear about. Gaslighting. If you look up gaslighting, is worse than, it's more like psychological stuff that people do to you. So within that, I attempted 7 times. After attempting 7 times, I even went as far as to being assigned to the next 4 petitions in the mental health department. So they wanted to, I'm sure, shoo me off from continuing to file the petition so they can see the taxes. There's certain things that they needed to see. And so for some reason, the taxes as in my mother's taxes. So for some reason, they put me in the mental health department trying to steer me away, but I kept doing it in the mental health department. in the mental health department after submitting at least 17 exhibits, each time including copies of tax returns, and copies of tax returns showing that she was receiving at least $6,700, that she was in 3 years, 16, 17, 18, and it is assumed with good assumption that she's still getting the approximate $6,700 a month, not year, per month, because she is claiming me as a child and using something about child credits. So she's claiming me as a dependent, and she's claiming child credits. This was confirmed, by the way, by a certified tax person, because it was confirmed by someone who knew taxes, and it was a second person even confirmed that I spoke with way before the last person. And the person who did confirm this by knowing their taxes, by knowing her taxes, by seeing her taxes, the same taxes that I presented to the court, providing an affidavit confirming her taxes alone, with me being in imminent danger, and they stated that they would be more than happy, basically they would be more than happy to testify at a hearing, if a hearing is provided. Hearing was never granted. Even with we're talking about now with taxes, and now the last try, here I am before a letter came, before I sent a letter, the last try was now sending an affidavit of a witness now that don't have to witness, that can give an account for the taxes, and that can give an account for the imminent danger, and that can be more than happy to appear to even go in great detail with the entire situation. They denied it. Something's wrong. At the end of the day, when there was a total of at least 11 foulings within the end of 2020 and the end of 2022. 11 foulings, pretty much within the same department, where there was communication, there was understanding how many times it was denied. The petition was denied. There would have been a flag. I'm sure there was a flag coming up to the multiple denials and to the new information on each submission. New information on each submission. So it's not just the same information. It is new information. It is information that is evolved. As it evolves, I submit. So at the end of the day, legal aid even told me the catch-22 to this is that I can't agree with the court's decision, because basically it would be problematic, because when the courts denied the petition, they also denied a hearing. So they literally stated that they denied the petition and hearing. So if there's no hearing, there is nothing to appeal. There was no judgment to appeal if there's no hearing. That's the technicality or the problematic situation that we would run into per legal aid, Ms. Colette. At the end of the day, what I say is I need your prayers. I need you to share this. I need you to like this. And if it makes sense, give 2 cents. Cash App. There's Cash App. TBCS360. TB3S60. 360. So TBCS360. Or you can go to Congresswoman, as a matter of fact, for the court filings, especially for the court filings and the taxes, and seeing as many times, pay specific attention to October the 10th, 2022, When you click on October the 10th, after going, you have to go to www.sos Congresswoman SheilaCM.com. Then you click on Broward Court Filings. Scroll down, you'll see October 10th, 2022. When you click on that, have fun reading it. And then ask yourself, why would a judge deny it? So at the end of the day, I thank you very much for tuning in. What I'm going to do is hopefully separate the video for others to see it. Separate the video and put it in the description so folks can see if they want to fast forward or something like that. But if you're still watching, I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for being there for me. I want to thank, even if you ain't watching, I put it out in the atmosphere that I thank God for everybody who's been praying for me and continues to pray for me. And as you pray for me, I've already prayed for you in Jesus' name. So thank you so much. Stay blessed.